Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish podcast. We're so grateful that you're tuning in today. Today, we're on site at Church of the Nativity, home of the Rebuilt Parish Conference 2025. We've got Father Michael and Henry White today talking all things vision and strategic leadership teams. I can't wait for you to learn from Father Michael about how supportive a strategic leadership team is, and from Henry about how this is all just too much for one man. This is why you need a leadership team. Whether you have one or not, or whether you've got a stagnant vision or one that's rolling, we'll see you inside the episode for you to learn more. Father Michael, Henry, thank you so much for joining us again on the Rebuilt Parish podcast.
Welcome to Baltimore, Melissa.
Thank you. It's so amazing to be here on campus. What an amazing opportunity to be here with everybody. I love it.
Sorry the weather's so cold for you.
It's not too different from the weather that I have in upstate New York. I just always look forward to warmer weather when I come down here. It's just not so.
You didn't get it this time. No, I actually have my coat on this morning. I'm freezing.
I know, it's been chilly, and it's wild that you still have snow. That's a sight we're not used to seeing around here.
Absolutely.
When we're not going to have snow, though, in June for the Rebuilt Conference.
That's right.
We are not going to have snow. And I just have to say, it's been so amazing being on campus here at Nativity this week, because there's just an energy here that you don't feel anywhere else. And so I just can't wait to have this place filled up with all of the people that are going to come and learn from this team. They get to experience that energy for themselves.
What's so exciting about the conference is that you're bringing together church leaders who are energized and excited about Parish Renewal. Absolutely. Just to bring all of that together in the same place at the same time it's enervating.
It really is. And what I love about that is it's not just that they get the opportunity to learn when they come here, but they get to connect with other parish leaders. And we know that parish work is not always easy. So it's always nice that you can connect with other leaders that are maybe in a parish that's like yours or different than yours, or maybe if you're in a parish that has multiple campuses or a school or is going through change. It's so nice to be able to connect with other parish leaders that are going through that same thing.
Exactly.
Well, I'm excited. And today we're talking about vision and strategic leadership teams. And we just know there's so much that they can learn at conference about those things. And we know they're going to leave excited and ready to work on casting a new vision for their parish too.
Right.
Well, I'd love to talk. We know that a vision in the parish can evolve a little bit over time. We know that sometimes the strategic leadership teams can evolve a little bit. Can we just talk about why is it important that our vision and our teams not remain stagnant? Why is the status quo not okay?
Well, because the world around us is changing constantly. It's in flux. And we have to be adaptable. We have to be flexible. We have to be changing with our communities and our time as well. Even the means of communication keep changing.
Yes.
If I think 20 years ago, when we first came to Nativity, we had typewriters.
Right. Oh my goodness, you had typewriters?
Exactly.
Whoa.
Right. You had a parish bulletin and the secretary typed it up on Friday afternoon. That was your major form of communication. We didn't have a website back in the day.
Oh my gosh.
Social media didn't exist.
Right.
All of that's taken place in the past couple of decades.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I keep thinking back to wow, what must that have been like without all of that? And then, we see how the landscape of the church has changed too, and how more people are using technology. I mean, we're here right now in a church with microphones and cameras. We didn't even know what a podcast was. Did they even exist back then? I don't even know.
Probably very few.
If they did, was the iPhone even around? I don't even think so. I think it was iPods back then.
If they were, they didn't have cameras, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. I'm trying to think back, but no.
We had landlines. We had a receptionist that sat at the front desk and she answered the telephone all day.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you're right. Things have changed so much. So let's talk about how can we then make sure, as everything changes, how can we make sure that our leadership team continues to reflect and support the evolving mission?
Well, let me just say a word about leadership teams because I think they're so important and often overlooked. A pastor needs a team of leaders around him or to help guide and direct the parish. Different voices that come together as regards the leadership of the parish. It's not to say that the pastor isn't the pastor. That's always the case. He has the canonical, the theological, the spiritual authority for sure. But he should gather a team of people around him. Even if you're in a small parish with very little or no staff, you can have a team of volunteers who serve as your strategic leadership group. And they, as a group, need to be cognizant of changing and evolving situations and circumstances.
Yes. Well, I think you make a great point that the pastor, no matter who he is, needs to have that team supporting him. That's what lifts you up. That's what helps you to navigate everything. Doing it on your own is lonely work and it's hard work. And when you have a team, it just makes everything so much better.
And hopefully they're bringing different perspectives than the one that you have.
Yes.
As married individuals, as lay people, as parents, as grandparents.
That's a great point. They're bringing in different perspectives, but then they're also bringing in their own talents and gifts too. So someone might be amazing in communication. Somebody might be great at executing and getting things done.
Exactly.
So it's nice to have those different perspectives. That's great. Well, can you tell us of how we can evaluate the effectiveness of a leadership team?
I think that's one of the hardest things of all to do, and it's easily overlooked in the ebb and flow of parish events and parish life. But I think that if they're honest and if they're honestly evaluating on an ongoing basis what's happening in the life of the parish, I think that you can be more accountable. We have 2 meetings every Monday. We have a weekend review meeting and we have a WINS meeting. And at the weekend review meeting, we have a very critical eye toward what we've done in this past weekend and all our efforts. At the WINS meeting, we celebrate what we got right and what was good about the weekend, where we saw the Lord show up and where we really fulfilled our vision.
I think that's great. I love that you look at it with a critical eye of what could we have done better. But then also, I love the concept of the WINS meeting, celebrating not just what went well, but where did we see the Lord shine this weekend? I think that also reminds us of why we're all here. And we're here bringing people to the Lord. Henry, I would love for you to share an example of how evaluating the team has led to adjustments that have helped to strengthen it.
Well, having different activities, say for personality types, we like to do the 16 types personality,
Yes.
and those can be extremely crucial just in the sense of if I don't know fully Father Michael's personality,
Yep.
how can I know what he will be like best at, or how can he know what I'm going to be best at?
Right.
If you don't know my personality, then I could be in a position where I'm doing something that doesn't necessarily put me up for an opportunity to like flourish in that position.
Right.
So if you want to be firing on all cylinders, it's one of those things where when you understand each other's personalities, you can then put each other in the right positions to essentially fire in the way that you're supposed to.
That's such a great point too, because we know that there's so many different tools that can be used for that, whether it's the 16 types, Myers-Briggs, the working genius, all of those. When you know the strengths of the team that you're working with, but then you also know where, maybe this part is Henry's strength, and maybe this is an area where Henry struggles, then you can see, okay, this is a great thing to give to Henry, and you know that Henry is going to be amazing at this, but maybe this is something that somebody else can help support Henry with.
Right.
So that way he's not his own here, but we're working together as a team to make it happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Such a great point. Thank you. Well, how do we help to adapt then the strategic leadership team's structure or focus as the parish grows and things change?
I think a big thing is continuous learning and development. If you're not constantly learning, then there's something going on there. Sort of like what we talked about in the first question. You never want to be stagnant.
Right.
You're in a ever-changing world that's constantly being updated with developments. So learning is so crucial. You have to be able to spot out differences of what may be going on weekend to weekend, like on a weekend to weekend basis, and all that good stuff.
That's a great
I think
point.
a pastor also has to be discerning what voices are helpful to him
Yes.
and be calling forth those people, those voices into leadership positions. I know that we have a strategic leadership team, and there are 5 other people that I've invited onto that team. And those people weren't invited for their positions, but for their wisdom, for their ability to effectively communicate to me. Not that they're necessarily saying what I want to hear all of the time. In fact, quite the opposite sometimes.
Wouldn't it be nice if it was what you
It
wanted
would
to
be
hear?
very nice, but it wouldn't be productive, and we know that. They're speaking truth to power.
That's a great point. And it's good to have some of those differing voices too, because they can bring their wisdom and experience to the table. Well, Henry, I'm wondering if you can help us with this one here. We'd love to hear a layperson's perspective on when it's time for the pastor to share that vision. How would you like to hear it from a pastor?
No, that's a good question. So you want to almost start off with having like this inclusive feedback process where the pastor's almost sort of getting the ideas from the leaders, right? Because in doing it that way, rather than the pastor speaking first, this was something that Father Michael had talked about the other day, where he says that he doesn't like to talk first in meetings because it's one of those things where, he may want to hear feedback, but also sometimes working for him, since he's my boss, I could take it as, okay, he said something, the conversation's finished.
Oh,
that's how
point.
that's the vision that it is.
Yeah.
Whereas if I give feedback, he can take that. That is the feedback that he can take, mess around with a little bit, and then say at the very end, this is the vision. And then that way you're receiving everything that you want, and it makes, you feel valued along with following his vision in the process.
That was a lesson I had to learn early on. It wasn't something that came naturally to me. My instinct is to speak, to say what I think. And someone pointed out to me at a certain point that when you do that as pastor, you're shutting the conversation down.
Wow.
You need to press pause, and let others speak first, and then weigh in.
That's so valuable, so hard to do. I think that has to take a lot of self-control as a human to not just say what you think immediately. But it also is a great point because of your position. Your voice carries a lot of weight, and what you say does. That's incredible that you've learned that skill now to just wait to hear what somebody else has to say. I don't know that I would be very good at that.
Absolutely, yeah.
That sounds
especially
hard.
when you're passionate about something, you want to talk first.
Yes. I think not talking first talking first is something I'm very good at. Waiting, not. So that's an incredible skill that I think a lot of pastors can learn that from you. Well, let's talk about keeping our team motivated. And Henry, I'm thinking you can share this from the laity side too, being a lay member of the team. What strategies help you to stay motivated?
I think recognizing and also celebrating the milestones that you reach.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of the biggest ones, because you can have this vision that's way far in advance, but it can get to a point where you're working, and then you can almost want to become stagnant.
Yeah.
Or you can almost start to become complacent. But whereas if you have these little moments of success, you're like, oh my goodness, this is great. And then it's a snowball effect.
Yep.
And you just keep on going.
That's a great idea.
There's a constancy to parish life. Sunday's always coming.
Yes.
And the monotony of it can be draining for people. It can be demoralizing for people too. So I think you have to create not only weekend wins, but seasonal winds, and you have to give shape and contour to your year. I know, like for us, the fall builds up to Christmas and Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And then, we press pause, and then we're into the Lenten season and the peak experience of Holy Week and Easter.
Well, and another thing too, you mentioned this earlier, and I think it's just really good and it should be mentioned again. Father Michael said you recognize where the Lord showed up.
Yes.
And so with that, you won't develop the mentality of like I said, being stagnant. You get to recognize God has been with me every step of the way that we have been going.
Yes.
Reaching towards that vision. And when you have that idea, I was actually thinking it too, but you were the one who said it, and I was like, yes, perfect.
Oh, that's so good, because when you think about, some of these things, and even the build up towards Christmas is a lot of work, and Lent is a lot of work with all that goes into that, and then the Easter celebration. But when you take that time to celebrate what went well in that season after it's over and where God shows up, that also helps to build your self-confidence as a leadership team where, look, this was a lot of work, but God helped us through all of this. Well, let's talk about, how do we balance out the day-to-day challenges while staying focused on the bigger vision of our parish mission?
It's the hardest thing of all to do. And I will acknowledge, I'll be the first to acknowledge that I don't always get it right, because the urgency of the present moment is always going to outweigh the importance of long-term, long-range goals and objectives as well. So it has to constantly be held in check. How are we keeping our focus on the horizon?
Well, let's talk about, what is that relationship between having a strong strategic leadership team and a strong vision? How does that strategic leadership team help you achieve that vision?
I think having a strong leadership team, like what you talked about, they uphold the pastor. And, I've been working here, I guess you could say, for 1 year since December. But also full time that I've been working here, it will be 1 year at that point in May. And one of the things that I'm coming to realize and learn is that if no one else was helping Father Michael, that is too much stuff on someone's plate.
Yes.
One man cannot do that.
Right.
I'm seeing it. I'm analyzing that. I'm like, you can't. A single person cannot do that. So you need to have a team. If you don't have a team, you can't fulfill your mission. That's what Christ calls us to do, is we need to have a team. Two is better than one. And that is, it's just so essential.
I think back to, I think it's in the first Rebuilt book, and I remember that my parish learned this when we were in Rebuilt coaching, and that the strategic leadership team is the Aaron and Hur holding up the arms of Moses while he's praying, right? So they are the Aaron and Hur, just helping and supporting the pastor, because again, like you said, it's too much for any one man to do.
And it's so clear throughout the Bible over and over again. That's a great example, but there's so many other great examples too. If you're reading the Gospel of Luke, Jesus goes out on his first mission trip alone. The second time that he goes, he takes 12 with him, the apostles. And the third time, there are the 72, the disciples. He's building a team of people. Yes. And if he needed a team, gosh,
yeah,
we do
definitely need a team.
For sure. For sure. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up here, but I want to know, how will the Rebuilt Parish Conference help parish leaders adapt their visions for the future?
I think the Rebuilt Conference is going to do a great job relating to where the pastors are coming from. It's going to do a great job energizing what your mission is and what you want to do. Just a little fun fact, without teasing too much, I was reading the first draft of Father Michael's message. First draft.
Oh.
And I'm reading it just from the laity perspective. I was starting to get a little emotional. I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
Oh my goodness.
I can only imagine what the finished product is going to be, because it just speaks to what we're going for. It speaks to the mission, and that is just going and making disciples. That is what we want to do.
Yeah.
You know, we're living in a world now where, you know, people aren't coming to church as much as they should be.
Right.
And it's our job to go out and reach them. We are
Yes.
the fishers of men now.
Yes.
And so the Rebuilt Conference is going to do an amazing job.
Oh my gosh,
at what you're supposed to
I
do.
can't wait. I want to read the first draft of this now, but I can't wait for everyone to get to hear you speak and hear you share from the heart. They're going to get to learn from you. They're going to get to learn from Tom. They're going to then in their breakout sessions get to learn from subject matter experts and also from some of our partner parish leaders who have walked this walk within the last couple of years too. There's so many different ways for them to leave here inspired and ready to adapt their vision.
Absolutely.
Well, Father Michael Henry, thank you so much for joining us again. This is so much fun. I love doing these in person. It's fun getting to actually see you in real life. Yes, for sure. Well, thank you. And we hope that we get to see everyone June 1st and 2nd at the Rebuilt Conference.
See you at the conference.
See you at the conference.